And we're kicking off with NXT, which saw Becky Lynch lose the Women's Championship to Lyra Valkyria in a main event that saw the two Irish superstars hold nothing back. After capturing the title from Tiffany Stratton, Lynch made it clear her mission was to help elevate the NXT Women's Division, which she definitely did, though it took a toll on the man's body. Bodyslam.net reports that Lynch walked into this week's match with Valkyria with several injuries, and that even if Lynch was 100%, the plan was for the Valkyrie to win her first title in WWE this week. Backstage, Lynch received a standing ovation for her efforts in the match, as well as her efforts in helping elevate the NXT Women's title and the division throughout her 42-day reign. Lynch defended the title a total 8 times before losing the gold to Valkyria this week, and hopefully now the man can have some much-deserved time to relax and heal up. It was earlier this year that reports came out about Drew McIntyre's contract, which despite his prominent position on TV, is still set to expire in 2024. While many took McIntyre's TV return at Money in the Bank as a sign of a new deal being reached, that wasn't the case, but fans should expect to see the Scotsman on TV for a long time to come. BWE reports that McIntyre will eventually sign the final draft of a new deal that WWE handed him some time ago, especially given the huge plans that WWE has in place for the veteran. The proven WWE insider teased that the plan is a bigger deal than McIntyre winning the World Heavyweight title from Seth Rollins, which could happen next week at Crown Jewel. One of the reasons for McIntyre's post-WrestleMania 39 hiatus is that he was deeply unhappy, but after a long back and forth, the two sides have finally come to terms. McIntyre hasn't won a title since 2020, and yet to win a world championship in front of a live crowd, despite many feeling he deserves just that because of his work during the pandemic. Whether that happens next Saturday in Riyadh, time will tell, but what would you like to see from the huge push WWE has in store for Drew? Let us know down in the comments. Over to AEW now, and MJF has often made nods to wrestlers of the past when he's in the ring, and this week, the AEW World Champion paid homage to none other than The Undertaker. During his match with Juice Robinson, MJF showed a vicious side we haven't seen from him in a long time, and was able to get the win despite interference from the Guns. Just before hitting his finisher, MJF signified that the end was coming by using The Undertaker's iconic throat slash gesture, and this isn't the first time that MJF and the Deadman were linked. During a Q&A in Scotland last month, The Undertaker named MJF as the wrestler competing today that he wishes he could face, and praised the success of the 27-year-old world champion. In response, MJF said that there isn't any higher praise than that of the Deadman, as it's clear that the AEW World Champion has a ton of respect for one of wrestling's most legendary figures. Before this match began, Dynamite opened with MJF speaking with Renee Paquette, only for Roderick Strong in the Kingdom to interrupt. Strong implied that he was the one in the devil mask, and after MJF told them off, someone in the devil mask appeared on the screen for a moment before AEW went to the arena for the opening match. Whoever is the one in the devil mask, they're certainly causing issues within AEW, and who do you believe will be unmasked? Give your predictions down below. We are looking ahead to Full Gear now, as we've known for some time that MJF will defend the AEW World title against Jay White at the event, but now the Devil has a second match booked. It's been confirmed that MJF will defend the ROH World Tag Team titles against the Guns in a handicap match, and we'll have to see what titles, if any, MJF can keep at what'll be a busy night at the office. No matter what, MJF intends to defend both his championships next month at Full Gear, but even getting to this show will prove to be a difficult journey for the world champion. During Dynamite, MJF had a war of words with Jay White when Kenny Omega interrupted, who pointed out that MJF is getting close to breaking Omega's record as the longest reigning AEW World Champion. Omega held the title for 346 days, while today marks day 341 of MJF's reign, and now the cleaner wants to make sure his record stays intact. Not only did MJF accept Omega's challenge for a title match, but revealed that it'll happen in just 3 days' time when AEW Collision comes to the Mohegan Sun Casino. Should MJF retain, then he will inevitably break the record, but between Omega and White breathing down his neck, MJF's days with the gold may be numbered one way or another. More from Dynamite now, as Sting featured in a memorable segment on the show, which saw the Icon receive a special gift from AEW President Tony Khan. Khan's generosity was likely down to Sting announcing last week that he'll be retiring, with his final match set to happen at AEW Revolution 2024. On Dynamite, Tony Schiavone shared the ring with the Icon and Darby Allin, and anticipation grew among fans as they waited to see what the gift would be. The anticipation erupted into cheers as Khan's gift was none other than the debut of Ric Flair, shocking the Icon, the fans in attendance, and those watching around the world. On Twitter, fans expressed their surprise at Flair's AEW debut, given his lengthy tenure with WWE, as many felt he was still under contract. It was in 2021 that Flair requested to be released from his contract with WWE, a request the company granted, and all appearances by Ric since then have been on a per-appearance basis. Flair and Sting exchanged pleasantries, with Flair calling his former rivals one of the nicest people in wrestling, and spoke about facing the Stinger at the first Clash of the Champions on TBS in 1988. With all this positive emotion, it was only a matter of time before Christian Cage interrupted to spoil the fun, earning huge boos from the Philadelphia crowd, though they didn't faze the TNT champion. Cage said that while Sting announced Revolution 2024 as his retirement date, he wants to do the Icon a favor by letting him retire early before challenging him to a 6-man tag team match. Sting accepted the challenge, and it'll be at Full Gear that Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne face Sting, Darby Allin, and a partner yet to be revealed. With Cage making plenty of enemies within AEW, we're sure there's no shortage of wrestlers who'd gladly align with Sting and Allin in the Icon's first match on his retirement tour. In the next segment, Renee Paquette was backstage with Christian Cage's best friend Adam Copeland, who joined AEW in the hopes of reuniting with his former tag team partner. Darby Allin then explained what went on in the ring and said that while he understands that Copeland wants to reunite with his friend, he should also be realistic given the situation. Allin was seemingly trying to get Copeland to be the third man at Full Gear, but it was clear that the Rated R superstar was hesitant about facing his best friend. Sting then stepped in to try and knock some sense into Copeland, saying he can't believe that they're having this conversation and that Copeland is hesitant after all Cage has done in recent months. Sting said he knows what it's like to have blinders on, which, given that he was far too trusting of heels in WCW who'd eventually betray him, is quite the understatement by the Stinger. He then proceeded to put his hands on Copeland in an effort to wake him up as the camera zoomed in on his flustered face, and it'll be interesting what transpires next between Copeland and Christian. Will Copeland be Sting and Allin's third man at Full Gear, or will his loyalty to his best friend win out? Sound off in the comments. Ric Flair's arrival on Dynamite was a huge surprise, and fans in Philadelphia were thrilled to see one of the all-time greats, but those at WWE were far from pleased. Wade Keller of PW Torch reports that WWE are angry at Flair, as despite the fact that he isn't under contract, they believe they should have been informed about his debut for AEW ahead of time. When Flair left WWE in 2021, many thought it was so he could join AEW where he'd manage Andrade, and that would have likely happened if Vice's Dark Side of the Ring hadn't derailed his career. Now WWE is making a plan to counter AEW bringing in Flair, but details are scarce as to what they're planning. But this goes to show that decades after his heyday, Ric Flair is still quite the draw. On WWE TV, Dominik Mysterio and Rhea Ripley have proven to be as tight as it gets, and this week, Dirty Dom gifted his mommy with a special gift from Munich, Germany. Backstage at WWE's recent European live event, Mysterio gifted Ripley with a giant gingerbread necklace with the word Mommy written in icing across the front. Ripley will defend the Women's World Championship at Crown Jewel, and with 4 opponents chasing her title, the odds certainly aren't in her favor at the event. With that said, expect Rhea to have her dom-dom when she travels to Riyadh next week, and if the past is any indicator, expect Mysterio to do what he can to ensure that his mommy comes out on top. In the main event of AEW Dynamite, Kazuchika Okada made his AEW Dynamite in-ring debut by teaming with Orange Cassidy to face Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli. With 15 minutes left when the bell rang, Danielson and Cassidy started the match, marking a first time they've shared the ring, and Danielson's kick put a stop to OC's usual antics. Okada got a big pop from the Philly crowd when he tagged in to face Castagnoli, as the two locked up and fought for control in what was clearly the right choice for the main event spot. Not only did it make sense given that it was Okada's debut, but it also proved to be the most technically proficient match of the night, with all 4 men showing their skills in the ring. When Danielson and Okada finally got into the ring together, the crowd lit up, and Danielson's broken arm injury that he suffered at Forbidden Door during his match with Okada played a factor this week. There was clear hesitation by the American Dragon, but he was able to continue with the match, and while Okada targeted Bryan with a flurry of punches, Danielson answered with chops of his own. Danielson was leveled with a punch by Cassidy and a Rainmaker by Okada that seemed to injure him, but Castagnoli would deliver a hellacious uppercut on OC to get the win for his team. After the match, the entire Blackpool Combat Club and medical personnel tended to Danielson, who was seen clutching his mouth, while the best friends showed up to support Cassidy. On Twitter, Tony Khan said that Danielson was able to leave the show on his own, but gave no further updates, as this proved to be quite the scene to end the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. With this week's Dynamite being in Philly, it was fitting that RVD was on the show, where he once again teamed with Hook in a victorious effort. This week saw Hook Van Dam defeat the Dark Order's John Silver and Alex Reynolds in a solid little match, even with the result never being in any doubt. The ROH World Trios titles were on the line, as the Young Bucks and Hangman Adam Page faced Brother Zay and the Hardys, who looked better this week than they have in months. Unfortunately for the Hardys and Zay, this wasn't enough to get the win, but the veterans and their ally looked very impressive, and a title change looked like a genuine possibility. Post-match, a video aired of Swerve Strickland and Prince Nana inside Hangman's home, making it clear that their issues are far from settled. The AEW Women's World Championship was also on the line as Hikaru Shida went toe-to-toe with Ruby Soho, who arrived without her Outcasts partner Saraya. This meant that the pair had a straight one-on-one match, and despite the talents of both women, something just seemed off, with neither woman working at the pace they typically prefer. The match felt slow at times, and it was only after a commercial break that the crowd perked up, especially when Soho tried to use the title in front of the ref, only to be stopped with Shida. The champion retained her title with the katana kick to end the match, and the crowd didn't seem to care about the result, but came alive when Toni Storm appeared. More from AEW now, as the promotion has slowly been increasing its number of pay-per-views, and now fans will have a new event this December to look forward to. On Dynamite, it was confirmed that AEW World's End will take place from Uniondale, New York on December 30th, as Tony Khan's company hopes to end 2023 with a bang later this year. This week's Dynamite had peaks and valleys, but the peaks definitely helped make this one of the more memorable episodes of AEW's flagship show as of late. Building up Sting's segment with the gift from Tony Khan ending up being a Ric Flair cameo was fun, but admittedly somewhat deflating, as fans expected something that'd have a long-term effect other than what'll likely be a one-off appearance. Fortunately, Christian Cage could be counted on to save the segment, continuing to prove his worth with each passing week. AEW bookended the show with the best matches as Robinson and MJF delivered a fun opener, while the main event with Okada's debut was realistically the match of the night. Once again, Toni Storm's character work proved to be some of the most entertaining stuff AEW's done in a long time, proving that there's more to being a wrestler than what happens between the ropes. All in all, this week's Dynamite won't be in any top 10 greatest episodes lists, but it was a solid show which delivered the kind of excitement fans have come to expect with AEW's flagship show. Yesterday, the news broke that WWE will be hosting its first premium live event in Germany next year, as the Bash in Berlin will happen on August 31st, but that may not be Europe's only PLE of 2024. Fightful Select reports that Paris may be getting a premium live event of their own, with Backlash 2024 expected to happen in the French capital. Some internal schedules already have Paris earmarked for the show to happen in the spring, typically after WrestleMania, but details are still sketchy as to where the event will take place. An educated guess would say that the Paris La Défense Arena would be the venue of choice, as it sits around 40,000 attendees and is the largest indoor arena in all of Europe. WWE has hosted multiple PLEs outside of the US over the past year or so, including Clash at the Castle, Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank, as well as the bi-yearly Saudi shows. With Elimination Chamber 2024 set for Australia and the Bash in Berlin coming, that trend will continue, and don't be surprised if WWE soon announces Backlash in Paris relatively soon. And we're ending with Nick Aldis, who made his WWE debut earlier this month as the new general manager of Smackdown, following the likes of Teddy Long, Paul Heyman, and Vicky Guerrero. Prior to his arrival, Aldis made a name for himself in the NWA, Impact Wrestling, and around the world, but none of that could prepare him for the WWE. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, Aldis admitted that for all his experience being on camera, he couldn't help but feel nervous moments before his debut. He said, "The thing I remember the most was sitting at ringside trying to look cool, trying to keep composed, and here comes Triple H's music. The thing I remember the most is that my heart was beating 1,000 miles an hour. I could hear my heart beating. You know, it was like thump, 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 thump. All I just thought was, okay, well, this is it. You get your opportunity and try to hit the ball, and I feel like I did pretty good." Aldis has wasted no time in exerting his power as SmackDown GM, from making matches to ejecting Raw GM Adam Pearce and Jey Uso from a recent episode of the Blue Brand. Right now, it doesn't appear that there are any plans for Aldis to wrestle, but as we all know, it's important to never say never when it comes to WWE.